and welcome to Mythbechattin. I am Daniel Darber, singer for Mythbegotten.
I'm Connor Hoffman, guitarist for Mythbegotten, and I would really love this light to get out of my face, but that's not the way it's going today.
And I am Joe Sopchak, keyboardist and bassist for Mythbegotten, shrouded in darkness, all the blinds drawn shut so that I am not pestered by the feeble sun.
Maybe I'll just scoot back from my desk a bit.
That'll do it. We are here for episode 5 of Mythbechattin, discussing track 5 from...
He means 6.
To discuss track 6 on our album Tales from the Unseelie Court, The Terror of Lothian. Get into some fun cannibal territory. To kick things off, Connor, do you want to tell us a little bit about how the music for this one came to be?
Sure. Isn't it Lothian? Lothian?
I don't fucking know, man.
I forget. You're the singer.
I know. I should have looked this up before, but I didn't.
We assure you we did check before we recorded the song. I'm pretty sure. Allegedly. Right, Joe? You're the one who usually does that.
Lothian, according to the Wikipedia IPA.
That sounds like how the song went, I think. So this is
maybe.
Yeah.
Do we keep this in? Do we start again?
I feel like we're committed at this point.
Fuck. Okay.
Man, it's a real chaotic Monday energy here. Probably not the day you're watching this, but who knows?
Could be.
This is another kind of middle era song. I think probably started writing this one in 2013, 14, something like that. In an era when I was listening to a bunch of like prog doom kind of stuff. And also was getting really into which album was that? All Empires Fall by Primordial.
I think it's just Empire Falls.
Is that one of them's the album and one of them's the song, and I forget which is which. Anywho, so the song started with
All Empires Fall. Empire Falls is the song.
So inspired by that kind of vibe, I was riffing around on some slightly more droney, kind of like doom folk vibes, and that's where the chorus riff and intro riff came from initially, and that's where the song started. Honestly, I basically just had the first 30 seconds or so of the music figured out, and then Dan and I were doing a songwriting session or something. I don't remember what it was, but yeah. I kind of showed you what I had, and we started talking through approaches for the chord progression and stuff for the verse and pre-chorus. And that's where the song suddenly took a turn from being more of like a blackened folky vibe to being like one of the more mellow death songs on the album, I guess.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of, I feel like, was this also around the time that you, to a greater extent, and I, to a lesser extent, were pretty into like Bellacore and the Stones' Reach and stuff?
Oh, sure. Yes, that was when I was listening to a lot of Bellacore also, I think.
I feel like there's some of that vibe in there too.
And like, I mean, that was a lot of my like undergrad time, was that sort of like, at the time, new wave of melodic death, like them and
the Australian
Mors Principium Est. Bellacore is the Australian one.
Oh, shit.
Oh, well, yes, Nea Obliviscaris also, though I didn't get into them until a bit later. Insomnium a bit. They're obviously have been around longer, but honestly, they're also a pretty good touch point for this song in a lot of ways, because they do have a little bit of that slightly gothier vibe to them. But so yeah, that was sort of the overall shape of the song for a bit, and then it kind of was just a mostly finished song that lacked a sort of like turnaround and ending. And at that point, I realized that I had this intro guitar riff that was one of the first parts of the song that I wrote, and it sort of just dropped out of the song and felt a little bit disconnected from everything else that came afterwards. So I sort of took that melodic contour and rewrote that into the new 12/8 meter that the later part of the song was in, and that's where the bridge riff came from, with the sort of taking that sort of appoggiatura melody, but putting it over a bit more of a mellow-deathy pedal-picked riff, and that's kind of it.
How we got the bones and everything.
Yeah. And then a lot of that sort of, this was aside from that, session where Dan and I did a lot of the initial structure, a lot of this sort of remained a Connor project for a while in the background, and more or less stayed in that form until we got down to actually doing production on it. And one of you guys, I think, came up with the idea of extending the bridge a bit longer. I think it was because, Dan, you had a vocal part you wanted to put in the bridge, and I had a guitar solo that I wanted to put in the bridge.
Yes.
And we were both imagining those things happening in the same place.
And I think it worked out for the better, because I really enjoy that solo and also really enjoy that vocal bit of the bridge.
Totally. This is, I think, one of the coolest guitar solos on the album. It's not necessarily the best played guitar solo on the album, because it was pretty hard, but I think there's some really cool stuff in it. And I also really liked the way the sort of extension of that riff afterwards into the bridge section gave me space to sort of play with that sort of like breakdown riff that was under the guitar solo and add in some more interesting textures. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit hard to parse sonically. I imagine we'll probably get into that later, but I think there's some really cool guitar stuff going on in that part of the song.
Yeah, I feel like you don't get like a ton of opportunities on Tales to show off your like neoclassical sensibilities when it comes to your soloing, and I feel like this one has a little bit more of that, some of that like almost human abstract-y neoclassical element.
I mean, yeah, this was around the time Digital Veil came out also. And that was, a lot of that was, I think, just from the harmony of the song, that so much of it was like, 1 to 5 to 4 to 5 to 1 sort of stuff, which is not how we tend to do things in most of our songs, because we tend to have a bit more of like a, rocky, folky harmonic language. And so that very strong dominant chord motion, I think, led me to lean a little bit more neoclassical with some of the guitar stuff.
So this song fell into a period where I was having some terrible writer's block for a few years, and then kind of started to stop all at once and the floodgates reopened. But this one, the inspiration, ended up being I'm going to say legend of Sawney Bean, who is a alleged 16th century Scottish cannibal.
I'm glad you threw in the alleged. We don't want his legal team coming after us for any slander here.
You know how the UK is with their libel laws.
Of course. From the area of Lothian. Now, I am going to I think, stake the hard claim here that there's some debate over this. It seems like the story of Sonny Bean was in large part anti-Scottish propaganda. So I do apologize to some extent for relitigating that. From the English, I know.
Wait a second. They wouldn't just lie.
Okay, guys, we're talking about our first album.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
That's a joke for later.
Yes. But essentially, it kind of shows up in different sources, always kind of second or third hand. There are some possible earlier inspirations. There's a figure, Christy Cleek, who is another legendary Scottish cannibal, who potentially there's more indications of being real. Maybe they were both real and then stuff was just sensationalized after. Maybe none of them were real. Who's to say? But interesting stories nonetheless. And the basic idea with Sonny Bean is people start disappearing from this road along the coast of Lothian. And what's happening is there's this family of incestuous cannibals living in this cave that's only accessible at low tide. And so essentially, when the tide is low, they go out, hunt people, steal their bodies, and also like steal their stuff and bring it down to their cave and then hide out during high tide. So making them more difficult to find. And in most versions of the story, this like basically goes on for a while until they fuck with the wrong guy, and someone is able to actually track down the cave and figure out the tidal advantage that they're using to stay hidden. So from there, there's kind of two versions of the story. The more popular version of the story actually involves like they're all rounded up alive, and Sonny Bean is like tortured to death, and the family are burned at the stake, and that's interesting in its own right. But I thought it was less cinematic than the alternative, which is using a bunch of black powder to explode the cave, basically trapping them to drown or asphyxiate there, and kind of leaving it all like basically like erasing this from history and just going like that, rather than making a big show of it. It was definitely fun to write. The movie, The Hills Have Eyes, from Wes Craven, is somewhat based on the Sonny Bean legend, and is one I enjoy. And that whole concept of this sort of like otherwise potentially nice landscape having this unspoken ominousness to it, I think is very cool and is something I tried to lean into. Also tried to incorporate just some fun wordplay and dark humor, the sanguine supper snacks of Sonny Bean. I am a alliteration junkie, and I will not cease.
There were some very fun lines of that sort.
Yeah. I was also pleased to get to, because I went with the gunpowder ending, reference the concept of a hellmouth, which for all of my medieval theater nerds out there, you know this one, which in medieval morality plays, the hellmouth is a literal like big scary demon mouth that Satan or demons may come out of, or sinners may be pulled into at various points during the show. But
I'm pretty sure it's actually the thing from Buffy.
Oh yes, or the thing from Buffy.
I think you're wrong about that, Dan.
And so got to reference that there as just the concept of this cave exploding with black powder and everything. And I think it's visually striking, the idea of just like this cart with these huge barrels of black powder and just like, what's the biggest explosion we can make in, 1500 Scotland? We're gonna, that much is how much we will be blowing up here.
Some things never change.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the songwriting for it went.
And then we handed it off to Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe did his bit. You see how we're telling the story in the order that it happened.
Yes, it's true.
Yes. Like the master storytellers that we are.
It's totally not, because we're just all kind of low energy today.
No, not Monday
Dan.
related at
Dan's
all.
slugging coffee.
It's true.
As far as we know.
Yeah, so doing the orchestration for this one, this was kind of, I mean, back when we were doing still just dual releases rather than the full album or anything, this was one of the first ones that we actually worked on. So it was one of the first ones that I did the orchestration on, and I'm pretty sure that we did this one prior to Exum.
Yeah, this was
yes.
like the first song, discounting the, bonus single.
Counting Maui. Yeah. That we had done. So it was very much still sort of me finding my feet on what sort of like workflow and what sort of things were realistic and not absurd to expect of ourselves out of this one. So it is the only track on the album where the choirs are actually singing text the entire time. There aren't any parts throughout the song where the choirs are just going except for the end, but that's because they're saying saw and e-bean. But like they're on text throughout the whole thing, which turns out is a miserably time-consuming process to program and then line up and then zhuzh to the point that it sounds real. It was fun, but I opted out of doing it again for the rest of the album.
Yeah.
In a sort of necessity as mother of invention, though, it did lead to the discovery of the workflow we would use, whereby you and Corinne did live vocal recordings to sort of like clean up the front end of the sequenced choirs, right?
Yeah, because the sequenced choirs, you can make them sound all right, but it is really, really tough to make them sound like an actual choir singing text.
Right.
Like if you're just
like the best possible version of a choir pad on a keyboard.
Basically, yeah. So yeah, getting someone to sing the actual part helps a lot with sort of like getting the articulation of the words a little cleaner, and it also gives, well, it just makes it sound better. I'm not going to go into the absolute details. We don't need to hear me talking about looking up phonetics charts for millisecond delays on different phonemes and all that shit. But
telling this story, though, I am now remembering the period in time when during production Joe was frequently sending me messages about things like, hey, what's the spectral response of this particular consonant?
yeah,
I'm like, Joe, that is not what I meant when I said I studied audio engineering.
Yeah.
This is a different thing.
Joe, this is a question for like a graduate linguistics department, actually.
Yeah.
Like find a phonologist, but
Indeed.
And
yeah,
then
but
Joe
no, it was
bought some phonology textbooks.
no, I already had those. But
the broader orchestration for this one definitely turned out cool too. In particular, I'm incredibly fond of, this was the first track we had Andy
yes,
do violin on, and I love the solo bit we had him do during that kind of final bit of the bridge with the lyrics there. It just sounds so fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, as we were just sort of alluding to, what's better than a sample library is actual musicians performing the instruments.
True.
And Andy, this was the first track that we had Andy recording live violin parts for, and I was absolutely just out of the gate sold. I was just like, oh, this is so much better. Like, I was really happy with how the parts came out for it. And he knocked him out of the park too. So,
and if you want to hear more from Andy and are into black metal, his brand.
First, you should buy more copies of our album, and then we will tell you how to listen to. No, go ahead.
Yes,
man.
First you should buy more copies of our album, but then you should check out Hubris out of Buffalo is putting out their new album Acts of Sedition on April 3rd. So check it out.
Ooh, that's soon.
It is.
That's like a month from now.
It is.
Or less by the time you're hearing this.
Depending.
I was going to say you're
in the past. Who knows when I'll get to editing this? Oh God damn.
I was just going to say you're really outing us for what our turnaround is on these videos.
We're recording this one ahead of time because we are in the middle of recording and post-production for something else. So,
yes, which you will find out more about soon.
Yes. So it'll get done when it gets done.
Yes.
Is my belief at the moment.
This is also the only song on the album that has you playing bass on it, actually.
Oh, that's totally true. Yes, that is. Yep.
So I was a filthy liar when I introduced myself as bassist and keyboardist for Mythbegotten, because for the scope of today's conversation, that is simply incorrect.
Yes, Connor should have said erstwhile bassist for Mythbegotten.
There aren't even keyboards in this. I just made shit up for my introduction.
For
Joe,
shame.
in-house phoneticist for... there's a keyboard pad in the beginning thing that you played.
Yeah, I think I did all of the keyboards for this one, too.
Yeah, I just sequenced orchestra and bitched about choirs.
So this was at a time when Joe was... had a lot more like work shit going on, making demands of his time. And so there was a second there where I was just recording bass. And I think I got 3 songs recorded before Joe came in and was like, no, actually I want that job back, and then re-recorded one of those. Which was, I think, The Fall, right? Was The Fall the one that I had working bass parts for initially?
Correct, yeah.
But yeah, so it just as happenstance of it being falling at a particular time in the production pipeline, and also this one, just the bass part in this song is pretty guitaristic. I think I played it with a pick even, because it is just very much that sort of like chonka, hit those rhythms, mirroring the guitar in the pre-chorus, which is probably the best riff we've ever done. I think maybe. Riff is really cool.
It's a good
I'm inclined
riff.
to agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even really remember how we came up with that one, but it's fun.
Yeah, it really is. Well, any closing thoughts on the Terror of Lothian? Lothian. I'm just gonna say
Um,
I'm mispronouncing it out of disrespect for J.K. Rowling, who lives there. That's my excuse.
Wait, she does?
She does. The real Terror of Lothian.
Oh shit, it's true.
Now,
Oh,
does
fuck.
she live in an underground
turf of
cave
Lothian.
full of cannibals?
Wait.
I can't prove it's true. But some
Wait,
say.
is this what the song's about, actually?
Some say. Allegedly.
No, I mean, I think there's not a whole lot to say on this one. It was an important part of our learning process. And the way that learning process worked out involved this one having some slightly rougher edges to certain aspects of it, which, one does at a certain part have to finish the project and not just keep going over and over reorchestrating and remixing things a billion times.
Yeah, definitely one of the idiosyncrasies of just the way we approached the album and it being kind of a learning process for our group workflow in of itself.
Yeah, and I think that in particular, the sort of learning how to get the particular vocal style to sit together, learning, I think, for Joe's part, which parts of the arrangement can be stripped back more and left to like the band parts to fill in, for my part, how much reverb to put on things, which increasingly the answer was just less reverb. You don't need that much, actually.
Just a dash will do ya.
It's true.
Yes, well, before we wrap things up, what have we been listening to lately, folks?
Oh, shit. You guys were talking about this before we pressed record, and I could have taken that as a cue to actually have an answer ready.
You
I
put
kind of
go
said
ahead.
that
Go
hoping
ahead.
that it would help everyone else, but
Why don't you guys start?
let's start with Dan.
So my main thing is that A Forest of Stars, one of my favorite newer bands, probably. I mean, I don't know if you can really call them newer. They've been around since like, the mid 2000s, but they just put out their song "Ascension of the Clowns," which is from their upcoming album "Stack Overflow in Corpse Pile Interface," which will be coming out this May, which I'm incredibly excited for. They're sort of psychedelic, folky black metal, and just really great and creative, and so stoked for that. Other than that, I also finally got around to, at the recommendation of one of our fans, checking out the newest Glyph EP, where Barbara Blackthorne joined the band, and that's really killer too. Definitely excited to see what they do next.
I had not heard that Forest of Stars album title. That is hilarious.
It's a good album title.
What if black metal but with computer programming jokes?
Yes.
So I've been lately, I forget if this was a thing last time we talked, because I feel like it's been going on forever, but I've been on a huge Thonic kick and just being bummed that they have other things going on in their lives and aren't releasing an album.
Yeah, it's like, I guess they're doing important stuff, but
yes, they are. At least two of them are. I don't know what the rest of the band gets up to in their free time, but those last couple songs were just so good.
Yeah.
I went back and revisited Battlefields of Asura, which still I don't think the mix is terribly good on, but has some really killer tracks on it. I recently checked out the most recent Spirit Box album, which has been a Dan recommendation a fair amount. I've never really listened to them before, and it's a pretty solid album. You know, I know they are beloved in particular circles, and probably also somewhat reviled in other circles because metalheads are elitists, but like
and metalheads are wrong to be elitist about Spirit Box. They're correct to be elitist about Sleep Token. Sleep Token is bad. Keep being mean to Sleep Token.
This is funny because they're doing similar things, but one of them is doing it much better.
Yes.
Like it's Courtney LaPlante, right, is the vocalist, I think.
Yeah.
She's very good. The guitarist, whose name I am forgetting, is very creative. I think like a lot of their particular songwriting approaches have not always hit for me, but this last album I think was quite solid through, and especially if you're having kind of a bad day at work and just want to listen to people scream very loudly about things for a while, you can do worse. I was inspired by a conversation with a friend to go digging back through like 3 years of YouTube watch history to find a band that I came across like 3 years ago and promptly forgot about, except for like a little bit of me that didn't forget about it, and it was in there and I couldn't remember who it was. But it is this this band Mizoiru no Inu, that is a kind of weird electronic post-hardcore art rock group.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain. My friend noted, particularly like in a lot of the instrumentals, a resemblance to like Kashiwa Daisuke's kind of like pianos and breakcore kind of vibe, but with like a lot of screaming over it. And so I was revisiting I think it's their 2020 album that's called I think it's Tokyo Virus Love Story is the title of the album. And it's one of those very interesting, like it has a quality of music that I always appreciate, and I never know exactly what to point to where it comes from, but it sounds like a place is the way I would describe it. It has a very it sounds like it is evoking a particular environment. It's very rough and earnest and just strange in ways that are pretty interesting. So
cool. Yeah,
consider this a recommendation, I think.
Share it in the band chat after this, because I do want to
to
listen that. Joe.
All right, and so then my way less interesting answer is that I've mostly just been listening to the incidental like Olympics suite music whenever it comes on in between commercial breaks. Just da 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 da.
It is symphonic.
More or less for the entirety of the Winter Olympics run, that was just on the TV, and when I had a spare moment, I was watching people throwing curling stones and resist the temptation for the biathlon athletes to pop each other in the back. Something I'm sure that they all must deal with at some points in their career or another. But yeah, no, I haven't listened to a whole lot musically. It has mostly been Mike Tirico and the various figure skating announcers.
Fair.
It is funny. Meanwhile, you have the
Thank
music
you for
for the
that,
X
Joe.
Games, which is just them praying and doing blood sacrifices for a new pop punk revival to finally happen so that they can
Yeah.
stop playing songs from that one Machine Gun Kelly album from like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, we have been Mythbegotten. This has been Mythbechattin. Good night, and see us next time for episode 7 on Twa Corbies. See you later.
Bye-bye.